Well, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us at Kenya House in Stratford, London, where we are profiling all things amazing, interesting, fascinating, and even challenging about Kenya. And it's going to be a very interesting conversation today. Really happy to have with me here at Kenya House Dr. Thomas Kariuki, and this is fascinating. He's the director of the Institute of Primate Research.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That, you know.
Of the National Museum.
Of the National Museums of Kenya, and we go straight to our team in Nairobi with that. We're so happy to be joined in Nairobi by Dr. Cradle, who is the Director General of the National Museums of Kenya. Right next to him is Dr. Emma Mbua, and Daktari is actually a paleontologist. She's the head of Earth Sciences at the National Museums of Kenya, and also with them coming to us from Nairobi is Dr. Tom Kariuki, who is a director with the National Museums as well. Welcome. And we have, I see, some guests in Studio B. Would you please introduce yourself to us?
Hello there, I'm Anthony. I'm a very, very interested participant in the paleoanthropological exploits that the guys in the museum are about to talk about. So,
thank you.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. Next to you.
Hi, I'm Susie. I've been to Kenya before, been on safari, but I think this sounds like a great opportunity to find out more about a different side of Kenya. So keen to hear about that.
Excellent, thank you.
And hi, I'm Sharon. I'm from Kenya. I'm a Kenyan citizen, and really proud of Kenya and looking forward to finding out more about what we have in Kenya.
Thank you so much. So let's jump straight into the conversation. And Daktari, I'll start with you right here. In London, Kenya is known as the cradle of mankind. Now, this has been challenged recently. I think, you know, south of Kenya, there have been those saying that perhaps it's not. Let's put this in context. What was the discovery made in Turkana, and what does it mean in terms of positioning Kenya as the cradle?
Thank you, Julie, and I mean, this is a great opportunity. And actually, since we arrived here in Kenya House, I have to say that Turkana Boy has been one of the major attractions. And for me personally, it's actually been quite exciting to stand beside him here and kind of be transported back in time and place. And the Turkana Boy, the guys from the National Museums of Kenya, my colleagues, have a lot of details about the Turkana Boy. But what we're saying is that he is probably the most important fossil of our time in terms of presenting human origins, in terms of the significance of Turkana.
Let's remind people when he was discovered, who discovered him, and just to let you all know that Turkana Boy is here on display at Kenya House, and once you walk into Kenya House, he's like in the main display as you start. So it really is amazing. People walk in and the first thing you see is the history of the world there with Turkana Boy. But
two Kenyans, Kamoya Kimeu and Kamoya Kimeu, working in an expedition that was led by Richard Leakey. I mean, everybody of my colleagues in the museum, when you mention those two names, then, you know, they get excited about Kamoya Kimeu and Richard Leakey, 1984 in Turkana.
1984. And let me come to National Museums of Kenya right now with this. You allowed us to display what really is an amazing heritage here. What's the message you are therefore sending to the world? Because this is a huge investment of your time and effort doing this. Let me start with you, Dr. Cradle, please.
Thank you very much, Julie. First of all, warm greetings from Nairobi and from the National Museums of Kenya to the team at Kenya House in London.
Thank you.
We also want to send our warm greetings and goodwill to the Team Kenya that is participating in the Olympics, that has brought all this Kenya House London to us. The National Museums of Kenya, Julie, is one of the public institutions that is the custodian of the Kenyan heritage. But in addition to being the repository or the bank where we deposit all our heritage, the National Museums of Kenya also undertakes cutting-edge research in providing information on various aspects from biodiversity to prehistory to cultural and ethnographic research. Today, as the Kenya House in London presents Kenya as an investment destination, the National Museums of Kenya would like to present another first, which is to say that as the Curiosity rover lands in Mars, looking for life in Mars, this is where life on Earth started.
Wow.
Actually started in Kenya. And we're not doing this out of fiction, we're doing it out of a marketing gimmick. We're actually using scientific evidence that is available to us to explain that life probably began in the East African region and probably in Kenya at the Lake Turkana Basin, as we will be hearing from our scientists. The Rift Valley, the Great Rift Valley, has been the source of a lot of the fossils that have told the story of human evolution and how life all started in the world. And Kenya hosts that very unique collection. And today we have renowned paleontologists, scientists who are also Kenyans by their own right, Dr. Emma Mua and Dr. Chalo Muthi, to tell us some of this evidence that is in place. And then we will also have to connect all this to the livelihoods of Kenyans and how Kenya can be a destination for visitation. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. That's amazing. I love the, drawing the link between Mars and everything that's happening around that, and of course the history of mankind. Let me come to you, Dr. Mbua. Please give us the scientific facts.
Yeah, Kenya is a house to a very large collection of early man. We currently have 1,000 remains of early man dating between 6 million and 1 million. Out here we have about 5 species of early man. The Turkana boy belongs to this group on the left here. These are known as the Homo erectus. That's how we know them.
I wonder if we could just, I don't know if someone is with you and can make sure they focus the camera on the fossils as you speak. Is someone there who could do that?
Yes, we have a cameraman here.
If you, thank you so much. That's what we want. Go ahead, Dr.
All right. Turkana boy has been mentioned and is our attraction there in the Kenyan house. And on my left here, we have that species, which we all know as Homo erectus. Homo erectus lived in Kenya around 1.5 million years ago. Their body physiques were just like what we have in modern humans today. Looking at the Turkana boy in the house there, you can see his limbs. They are very close to what we have. So Homo erectus at 1.5 closely resembles us as Homo sapiens today. His brain was a little bit larger than the rest of the early man collections, which you see on the right here. Out here, as I said, we have about 5 species, which Kenya really boasts in. We have basically more species than others in the region, and that strengthens our position into us being the cradle for humankind. And further to that, we have a fossil which is almost 6 million years ago. That is the time when we expect man to have stood upright 6 million years ago. And we delight in having that collection here in Kenya, showing that, man first stood probably in this region 6 million years ago. So that kind of evidence is not found in anywhere else, but we are quite happy to have it here in Kenya. On top of that, we had other species which were quite, which had a specifically small brain. Our line, as the humans, we have large brains. Probably that is what really made us succeed in life. While those who did not have a bigger brain at the same time, they got, they got extinct or perished. So Homo erectus is in our lineage and is quite an important discovery for Kenya and the world over. And on top of that, it provides enough information to show that early man physique and morphology closely resembles modern humans today.
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Marty next to you and ask this question, because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what I'm wondering. Are those replicas or are those the actual fossils? I'm sorry, I have to ask. How are you protecting this heritage? Are those, do you have to keep the fossils in certain conditions to assure that they last the next few decades and centuries? Are those actually the real fossils or replicas, please, Dr.
Thank you, Julie. I want to say that these are replicas. They are cast or duplicates of the original. The only we have is only this one, which is an original Homo sapien, you and I. But I want to tell you that the original specimens are kept in one of the most securest places in this country, in a safe, what we call a strong room. It's very, very secure. They are treasures of our ancestry. They are treasures for Kenya. They are treasures for the world. So we keep them very, very securely, and we have very minimal access to the original material.
Fantastic, thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people were wondering, so I just had to bring it in. Let's talk about what Dr. Farah mentioned, which is how do we use this rich heritage to increase our, you know, whether it's the capital coming into the country, whether it's investments into the country, so things like tourism around this heritage and this history. Dr. Farah, what's going on in terms of trying to use this to leverage the growth and development for the country?
Thank you very much, Julie. As you may be already aware, under the Vision 2030, which is the blueprint for Kenya's development, the idea is to diversify the products that Kenya is selling to the rest of the world in terms of tourism destination. And a number of issues have been floated within the Vision 2030, including ecotourism, cultural tourism, and so on and so forth. For us at the museum, where we undertake prehistory research, we would like a situation where the paleoanthropology sites, or the sites where these fossils have been recovered from, are open to the public in a way that they can understand and relate to those sites in terms of interpretation, access, and put in amenities that will allow people to spend over in these sites. So right now we're looking at a number of sites within the Rift Valley of Kenya, beginning with a site to the south of Nairobi called Olorgesailie, and then up further north to Kariandusi, Hyrax Hill, and the crown jewel, which is really the Cradle, and that is the Lake Turkana Basin. And under the Vision 2030, we are undertaking the Cradle of Mankind project, also known as the Eden project, will open up all these areas for tourism and for people to go and relate to their ancestors.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Just to add on what Dr. Farah has said, the message we have been passing here to the visitors to Kenya House has been one which maybe has an analogy with some of the historical sites elsewhere. So if you imagine people would visit the state of Israel to go and look at historical sites, we are saying that we would actually like to see numbers and diversification of our tourist product going to the north, going to the Turkana Basin, to actually visit the Cradle of Mankind in a way that they are paying pilgrimage to the genesis of humanity.
To the journey that mankind has
taken.
And yesterday we were discussing tourism here, and we were highlighting some of the most beautiful parts of Kenya. There's so many, but Turkana definitely is one of them. So the Eden project sounds like an absolutely amazing project. So on that note, let me come to our second booth here at Kenya House, and everybody in there. So from what you've heard so far, what are your thoughts and comments, and do you feel that a tour of this heritage of mankind is something that would sell. Would you be interested in doing that? Let's start with the lady in the middle who's nodding her head.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be one of my questions, whether you could visit Turkana and see where the Turkana boy was originally found. So that's really great to hear. And I'd also be interested in finding out what is there also to see at the National Museum.
Okay, great. Absolutely. I'll bring those questions to the team in a moment. Yes, let's go to the other lady and the gents first. I'll give the ladies preference.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. For me, as a Kenyan, it's
Sorry, you've just frozen for a moment. Okay, I think we'll definitely come back. We'll come back to them in just a moment once it unfreezes. But you know, that question was very important. What else is there to see at the National Museums of Kenya? And I'll go back to Nairobi for that, because there is quite a bit to see. I also would like to know, when exactly is it possible, even right now, to actually tour, you know, the site where the Turkana boy was found, or is that something that is a work in progress? So if you could answer both those questions for us, Dr. Edel, or your team.
Yeah, Julie, the site where the Turkana boy is not accessible at the moment, but other than to researchers themselves, it's work in progress that we're trying to make to ensure that these places are accessible, both online as well as physically accessible. But
give us a timeline.
What we offer,
for anyone who's interested, do you have a timeline on that? 6 months, 8 months, a year?
It's a 3-year project, actually, because it requires very heavy infrastructure in terms of roads, airports, rail, and so on, because this is really 3 days drive by a 4-wheel drive from Nairobi. You can imagine it will take us a bit of time to get all the infrastructure in place. But we have a lot to offer. I mean, we have 24 museums across the country that are accessible to the public every day of the year, including Christmas. They're open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. We also, within the Nairobi National Museums, have the fossils that we've talked about, the biodiversity of Kenya, we have the cultural diversity of Kenya, we have the history of Kenya, all displayed in different museums. A number of the outside museums concentrate either on the scientific aspects or on the cultural aspects, depending on which museum you visit. But all the major towns in Kenya have a museum that you could actually visit. But in addition to that, the museum takes care of 6 World Heritage Sites in this country that are listed on the UNESCO World Heritage List as outstanding sites of universal value that could be visited by anybody across the world. I think those are very, very critical and important heritage that we're keeping for the Kenyan people and for the world at large.
Okay. Thank you for that. We're back with our other booth. Sorry about that. There was a bit of a freeze. You were asking a question. Please go ahead. Oh, could you start again, please? Sorry, could I ask you to start again, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, for me it was just a comment. Very excited as a Kenyan to know that there's so much more other than the safari and the beach that is always advertised. So it's very exciting, and as a Kenyan, of course, pulling more people towards museums, visiting to see the history and the findings that we have as a country. So I'm very excited as a Kenyan.
Thank you for that. And to the gentleman, last but certainly not least.
So I'm obviously very interested in coming over to Kenya to see some of the existing fossils, like the Turkana boy, for example. But I'd be very, very interested to maybe go out to the site and find out how deep Turkana boy was found or buried. And maybe even going out and actually having a look for some of these fossils myself with some of my friends. Is that a possibility at all?
Is that, Dr. Farah, is that one of the concerns, that even as tourists come, there needs to be an area that they cannot perhaps access? Or would you be interested in partnering with universities and perhaps experts or people who have a passion for this to allow for certain digs to take place?
The possibilities are in fact, and that's what we are currently working on. But there are already sites that are available, that are accessible, including, as I talked about, Olegesaile, Hyrax Hill, and Karindusi. And these are places where you can actually do real-time, as a visitor, interact with the fossils, the stone tools, and so on and so forth. So while we welcome the gentleman to Turkana to do this, of course at a notice, because we cannot just fly to Turkana every day. This has to be arranged well ahead of time. But there are places you can go to much nearer Nairobi and still have the same experience.
But there is a dream and a vision, and I hope, we can confirm this from your end, that one day we will be able to drive into or fly into Turkana, that security will not be an issue, that the area will have developed around ecotourism, around tourism, and around this heritage tourism. I don't know if that's what it would be called, because certainly even in terms of the area, the rustic beauty of the area really lends itself to tourism, and Dr. Edel, is this a hope that?
Yeah, absolutely, and of course we have to work out this very, very carefully, because if we do it the wrong way, then it will not be sustainable. So we have to look at sustainability of having millions of people getting to these very fragile sites in terms of the ecosystem and the environment, and we have to arrange it in such a careful way that people can access these places without necessarily destroying the environment surrounding it.
And maybe Jury, Dr. Manzi or Emma can comment on this, but for academic and research purposes, actually we do have collaborations with international universities, and we enable them to actually visit these sites, working with us hand in hand to actually explore these possibilities.
Right, Dr. Aris, please come in here on that. I mean, even young individuals who say, listen, this is a passion of mine, or institutions, what is possible right now?
Right now we host quite a large number of research expeditions to some of the sites we have discussed about. Every year here at the National Museum, we receive international scholars to do collaborative work with us here at the National Museums of Kenya. We go to the field for the purpose of collecting fossils, again in collaboration of international institutions as well as local ones. And students are also welcome. We are running field school whereby those who do not have a background in this research can get to know what goes on in the field of paleontology. And the numbers of people coming here to look at the material and to study for their doctorate, masters, and just to create an interest in this research is quite phenomenal. Every year we receive close to 200 international scholars coming just to look at the material at the National Museums of Kenya.
Thank you. Sorry, there's a bit of a sound issue there. And let me come to one more question, which is looking at our heritage, and even now with the Mau Mau case here in the UK, in terms of capturing moments around our colonial history, around the struggle for independence. Is there anything being done that you'd like to tell us about, perhaps? Because these are some of the things that would be quite important also to preserve.
Julie, of course, a lot is being done. And this is not a one institution issue. It's a government-wide as well as a private sector collaboration in terms of securing the history of Kenya, in terms of documents, in terms of artifacts, in terms of individuals who have played a big role in the shaping of Kenya as a nation. As you're aware, right now, as we go towards celebrating 50 years of independence in 2013, we are actually putting up a lot of the historical documents together with the National Archives and other media houses to ensure that we bring an exhibition that tells the Kenyan history from a Kenyan perspective. Because a lot of Kenyan history has been written, but a lot of that history has been written by individuals who come externally from Kenya.
Right.
The whole issue, of course, of Kenyan heritage being outside of Kenya, also a very thorny, very controversial, and very long issue to deal with. There are international laws that guide in terms of repatriation of some of this Kenyan heritage that's outside of Kenya at the moment. Those are issues probably that we will be dealing with in coming years as we discover what is out there that is Kenyan.
Thank you so much. A little bit of sound issue there, so we're going to come to, we see that Joe Musheru has joined us in Nairobi, and Joe, if you can hear me, I mean, you know, Google has taken over information in the world. It provides information to everybody, and I guess what we're talking about right now is capturing information and using our history to leverage Kenya. What are your thoughts on this whole discussion?
So first, Google hasn't taken over information. we index information and make it universally accessible. It's our mission. And I think, you know, having been in Africa and worked with Google now for over 5 years, one of the key things that's been clear is we don't have a lot of information from Africa and from Kenya. We tend to consume a lot of the information once the internet is being brought from the rest of the world. And so part of the challenge that we have even as Google is to see how much more information can we actually get online from the various information owners in the country. So in Kenya, for instance, the government has huge amounts of data and huge amounts of information that people are interested in, but most of that, even if it's digital, is not actually made available online. Although recently we saw with the open data, you know, from the government, that's beginning to happen. So I think there's still a lot for us to do compared to the rest of the world in getting the information out there. There's opportunities of us being able to monetize, you know, this information once we put it online. So I think that's one of the big fears that people have, that it's going to cost too much to put this information on, and then how do we get that money back? I think there's many publishers that are showing that there's ways of getting the money back, and if it's the government, it's one way of reaching to the you know, to the electorate, to the citizens, who again, if they come to the government, maybe things are printed or put on DVD, which is much more expensive than if they actually just put this information online. So we need to put as much of the content online as possible. That will encourage more people to go online. We'll see a much larger digital economy, and there'll be growth in many different aspects, including the advertising business. So I'm looking forward to seeing more content actually from Kenya, you know, going online and competing even with the rest of the world.
And perhaps, Joe, the biggest thing is the cost of not putting the content out there and losing some of this content forever. It would be a really great cost. Just to let you all know, that's a picture we have right there of the Turkana boy on display here in London, and people really walk in, take a good look, and say, this is where we came from. This is where it all started. We're joined also by Wadzanai Madziva. Share your thoughts with us in Nairobi.
Hi, Chima.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good, very good.
What questions and thoughts do you have for us today?
No, I think generally, first of all, I think this is fantastic what we're doing. I think it's great that we are immortalizing ourselves. I think that's one of the main things that probably is coming from the National Museums, for us to be able to leave a legacy, to be able to share how we have evolved. So, for instance, what we are doing today, and maybe just building on what Joe was saying, what we are doing today and in this lifetime, what efforts are we making to immortalize it as well, so that the generations after us have something to look back at. It's very easy to look in history. It's very difficult to create history or memorable and actually offer that as information and content for others to because you take it for granted since you're in the moment. So I think our efforts in creating information that is not just for our use now, but can be used as reference for those that come generations ahead of us, as we've had the benefit of seeing the Turkana voice. So those are my comments. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think we have advanced significantly in technology to actually be able to avail that information globally. Thank you.
I like the choice of words. I mean, we are immortalizing, our evolution and our legacy and our human origins. And in a way, it was predicted by Charles Darwin, who is, of course, the British scientist who is regarded as the father of evolution and who can actually work out the theories of human origins. He actually predicted that the story would begin in Africa. Even at the time when he was doing this in the 1800s, there was not a single human fossil that was available. And yet he predicted and told his colleagues, if you want evidence for human origins, go to Africa. Or they disregarded him a bit and went to Asia. But eventually the scientists, including now those from the National Museums of Kenya, my colleagues, have actually proven over and over and over again that really this is the cradle of mankind. And this is a unique legacy for us. And we are custodians on behalf of the entire humankind. So I like the challenge that we have now of how do we digitize all of this, how do we make it available, how do we share this information with the entire world.
Right. At this point, I just get a final statement from everyone who's with us on this issue, and let me start with the team from the National Museums of Kenya. Daktari, let me begin with you, and then Dr. Farah. And then we'll go to the people who've joined us from various different places, and we'll finish with Dr. Karaoke here. Please go ahead from Nairobi.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to tell everybody who is participating in this hangout that you are welcome back home, wherever you are, whether you're Japanese, whether you're American. This is where we were all born. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure once again to reiterate that Kenya is the cradle for humankind, and I would like to also reiterate the invitation to all humanity to visit Kenya, because this is where it all began.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that this is where we all began. We moved from Africa and Kenya around 1.8 million years ago, but humanity began in Africa. It began in Kenya, so welcome back home. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Thank you so much. Let me come to you, Joe.
Yeah. So I think for me, the excitement is that first of all we are having a hangout with the National Museums of Kenya. I think that's a massive step forward. We found, for instance, the Cradle of Mankind. I'm not sure whether you covered this or not. Right now, if you go online, most of that is South Africa, and I think we need to take steps to correct some of those either truths or untruths to make sure that that we're online. But I think it's a great step, and I'm very excited about the opportunity we have. The tools that we have also as Google, like Google Maps, YouTube, that allow us to be able to even allow people to travel virtually to some of these places, are available for the National Museums if you want to even take this further from a digital perspective, and these are available even on the mobile phones. So exciting times for Kenya ahead. Even after the elections, I think we're going to see so much more from the digital perspective. And I think even as much as there is oil in Turkana, there's the Turkana boy, there's all that, there's plenty also online. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much for that. Wads in Nairobi.
Hi. So I guess my last words are basically that I think we have seen history and we are enjoying the benefits of the history that we are learning, and I think we should continue to create history and continue to grow the wealth of knowledge that we have and utilize the tools at our disposal in doing so that we have a legacy.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Let's come to our booth, our second booth here at Kenya House. Please go ahead with your thoughts.
So I think we're all very, very much looking forward to coming back to our roots, back to Kenya. And not only in person, but also digitally. We're very much looking forward to seeing some things online, particularly about the cradle of humanity and potential places that we can go and dig ourselves. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I think it's great plans, which is obviously really good for tourism. Presumably, will create more local jobs in Kenya, and I'm sure it will have global interest and get more people visiting Kenya over the years to come. It's really exciting.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, for me, I'm really proud as a Kenyan, I would say, and looking forward to traveling to Turkana and visiting the museums. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr.
It's been exciting, Judy, because some of the visitors who come to Kenya House have actually been amazed and awed by the Turkana boy. Mm-hmm. And the inquiries even from potential investors have been very positive. And so when I go back home, I'm going to, give a very good report to my colleagues about what needs to be done as the next steps to live with the reality, so that instead of just welcoming academic and researchers into the Turkana Basin, we will develop the concepts and then develop the infrastructure to welcome all of humanity to that part of our world. Yeah.
And just to finish off, did you call it the Eden Project? The Eden Project, what a name.
Yeah.
And you can just imagine what a project like this would be.
Yeah.
And, just to say, the last time I was in Turkana where, it was very dry and, of course, there was food scarcity, as we drove through the very rough but beautiful terrain, I looked around and thought to myself, what an amazing place. And I can't wait for the day that people can come here to celebrate the cultural diversity and richness that is here. Yeah. The beautiful lake, but Turkana is a big area, even where the lake where it doesn't exist in the other parts of Turkana, absolutely beautiful, but also imagine the richness of that whole concept of the Eden Project. So we wish you, as the National Museums, all the best. We are looking to you to execute this for us. And as we've also mentioned here, the issue of content and putting this information online, keeping it alive is so critical. So thank you all for joining the conversation. Hats off to you all. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.